and welcome back to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we are talking about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name's Don Marshall. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and today I am a pre-Super Bowl fun boy. I am all ready for my Super Bowl party tomorrow.
Super Bowl.
Yes, it is my gayest party of the year that I go to, and I'm a little. It has more A-gays than most of the parties I attend during the year. So
you're burying the lead. Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, right.
Hi, my name is Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. And I heard there's a game with a ball and a foot, and I looked it up, and it is real soon, and I just wanted to make sure it didn't interfere with my brunch plans, which are, in fact, the big game of the season.
Oh, brunch.
What could be gayer than Super Bowl and brunch?
Happy Valentine's Day. I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and it's Valentine's Day. I'm your little floating Cupid hovering around telling you to kiss people and smooch and stuff. And I'm also firing arrows. No, not
Sorry,
that.
I don't have the harp.
Well, that sounded divine.
Maybe I'm belching some love into the air.
Yeah, it just comes right out of him.
Just burping Cupid.
Love smells like old burgers. I didn't know.
And hello, my name is Michael Willer. I am a chaser. And I'll round it out with another happy Valentine's Day, everybody. At this current moment, as far as the launch of this episode, I will have flown back to Seattle for an emergency work project. So I will be spending Valentine's Day not with my partner, which is, I guess, okay, because Valentine's Day hasn't really been that much of a thing, but we'll get to that later.
No, I guess Patreon corner. Thank you again to our Patreon subscribers, our non-Patreon subscribers, our just gentle listeners.
Yes.
Our Chaser chat finally came out.
Yay!
So
Finally.
if you're
Man, we really sat on that one.
yeah, you can check that out. Don and I are going to be doing some kind of chub corner thing coming out later this month.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's an exciting time to be a podcast listener. There's all kinds
I
of
wish
podcast
I could be a
stuff all the
podcast
time.
listener.
Oh, Dan, dream big.
Well, hit that pop culture.
Diving right in.
Hit that pop culture.
Oh, Lordy. See, if we sing along to it, the lag will put us out of sync with each other, and that's just
Oh, dear.
unlistenable.
Yes, it is.
Welcome to Pop Culture, everybody.
I'm tipping my little Cupid top hat and sharing the news with the world.
We got a good pop culture segment
We
today.
do.
Yes.
All about fashion.
Yeah. To go with your Valentine's fashion. What are you wearing tonight? Who are you wearing tonight? Find out later.
Sash, diaper, top hat.
Tell us. Write us. So Fashion Magazine has a fairly incisive article about basically where are all the plus size male models?
Yeah.
They gone.
Where
They
have
done
all
disappeared.
the plus size male models gone?
We've done it before. Why would you want more plus size models?
Yeah, we did that last year. Done.
We've already done it.
Check.
What I liked about this
I
article,
love that the current trend is being called Fabio core, by the way. It paints a picture.
what I like, because we've talked about this a little last year with the notice of lack of plus size bodies in Fashion Week, but I like that they're kind of defining the male model separation from for women models, it's been the heroin chic, and I like that they called for the male models Fabio chic.
Fabio Core. Yeah. I also like that they've basically highlighted the fact that, for whatever you think of the body positivity name or movement, that it's been really in full force for women, but only just sort of ramping up for men. There is some body positivity representation, and they gave some great shout outs, including Wombat Cereal and Sam Smith. So some really great stuff there, but we saw more of it in previous years. And so what happened is the question being asked.
I think one of the things that this article made me realize is that the fashion industry is going to keep having this problem over and over and over in 1,000 different ways until they stop treating the bodies of their models as yet another fashion accessory that needs to be changed up every year to match whatever clothing they're making that year. You know, that doesn't work.
That's interesting.
My body is something I can't change every year. So you are going to have to change your fashions to match my body. It's not going to go the other way around.
No, you're right. They do see it the other way around. That's really cool, Don. That's a great insight.
Well, the article says it outright in that what is a fashionable body for this year? And you can't do that. We need to stop doing that. Like women have been going through that since forever. But
one of my favorite points in the article, which I think sort of feeds this, I guess illustrates this on a very down to earth sort of level, is a reference they made to their own magazine's October issue, presumably 2022, as Sean Lofgren wrote when talking about his own eating disorder that he went to a doctor to have anorexia treated. The doctor told him boys don't get eating disorders. After which his condition worsened. He ended up in the hospital. Even though statistically 1 in 3 people experiencing an eating disorder in the U.S. are male. And so it just really illustrates that it not only is it there's less focus on the overall world of the fashion, but also the disorders associated that come along with the models and the people involved in fashion are also not allowed to be male experiences. Like the whole world is sort of very female focused. And so when you talk about getting a subset of a subset of a subset, trying to get plus size representation in male fashion, you're digging out from underneath so much.
Yeah. But just to feed into that, like the fashion industry targeting men, right? I feel like cis male people aren't allowed to say, I am feeling bad about my body. So they actually are kind of put into a defenseless position against the fashion industry as it tells men what they're supposed to look like.
Amen.
Because the fashion industry is creating an illustration of this is what is going to be sexy, but you're not allowed to have an opinion on it, and you're not allowed to express negative feelings on being left out about it.
Well, something that I've long said in my seminars is that one of the traps of toxic masculinity is this sort of self-perpetuating model that if you're a straight man, you're only allowed one emotion, anger. And so if you're not angry, you don't have any feelings. You know, you must not be feeling anything because you're not angry. You're okay. You're fine. You're fine. You're cool. And I think that just becomes self-perpetuating. And before you get to abusive or toxic masculine behavior, there is that denial of self that must be in place. That's sort of the cauldron for it, or the crucible, maybe.
And but a more positive take on fashion, because that's more of an incisive look at the fashion's lacking. How about something a little more upbeat in the world?
I
of fashion?
like upbeat.
Yeah, and this does heavily feature Lizzo, but it's not exclusive. No,
Oh,
it was
good.
It was.
Are
the
you saying that we
Grammys.
might have some sort of Lizzo fixation on this podcast?
You mean
Michael?
the Lizzo podcast?
No.
How would you?
The Grammys were this past weekend, or I guess no, when this comes out, it would be 2 weekends ago. And a lot of people, there's a lot going on, but a lot of people brought their fashion pizzazz to the Grammys. Let's start with Lizzo, because that's the jumping off point.
She had 3 separate looks.
3 separate, distinct, fabulous looks.
I would say 4, since one of them is sort of a full reveal look.
I've always wondered, like, where are these fabulous outfits coming from? And this article solves that problem. It's like, oh, Dolce Gabbana. I'm like, where's my Dolce Gabbana outfit that looks like this? I would love that. Why aren't these available for like normal human beings, other human beings?
I was really impressed with how Dolce and Gabbana was able, like they went all out creating all of these designs with Lizzo and her team.
They're very varied. The thing that I'm loving about this is that in Lizzo, I feel like we're finally seeing the culmination of, we've had a lot of larger performers over the past 20 years complaining about going to award shows and not being able to find any sort of couture. And most of them having to sort of just confront a single designer and force them to make something for them.
Yeah.
And so the dresses we're getting for Lizzo now are actually taking fashion in a different direction for larger people. Like, there's thought going into these dresses that I haven't seen going into dresses that larger women have gotten to wear to the award shows before. A larger level of creativity. And I'm looking forward to seeing that starting to spill over onto some of the other performers.
Well, I'm wondering how much of that has to do with, you see, we've come so far in fashion and now even Dolce & Gabbana is designing for large size celebrities. Or is it just, she's fucking Lizzo. Anybody would be at her feet trying to design for her, and she can carry off pretty much anything they put on her.
Let me point out that, as we're praising Dolce & Gabbana for clothing Lizzo on this one, Dolce & Gabbana are also the pictures we were just talking about in the last article we discussed.
Yeah, there is that.
The Fabio core, where they're talking about absolutely no fat representation with men on their runway. So, yeah.
That is true.
I think we're hitting
Well, then I think you made my point for me.
A strange point.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lizzo, but and if I guess the test of time is that whether or not they stick with it, right? Yeah. Do they choose just to dress Lizzo because she's so big this year? Figuratively speaking, she won Album of the Year, which, by the way, can we just say, the last woman of color to win Album of the Year was Whitney Houston. And so this is like a big deal. And of course, Dolce and Gabbana are not going to pass that up, knowing that Lizzo's kind of on this trajectory.
Exactly. I mean, can you imagine? It would be world news if there was a headline that says so-and-so fashion designers says it doesn't want to design a dress for Lizzo.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even have to give a reason. It's just that anybody, you turn down Lizzo, you're going to be in the newspaper.
And at least that's something for like some kind of progress, I guess, that brands can finally be called out for that.
It's something.
I mean, we've been here before, and each time it's been a step forward. Cameron Manheim, back in the day, got nominated for something and could not find a dress.
Yeah, she couldn't get arrested.
Literally could not find a dress. Yeah. And then when Leslie Jones had to go to an award show, we actually had Chris Siriano. Is that his name?
Christian Siriano, who I feel
Christian Siriano stepped up.
He's stepped up multiple times. I think he also, Chrissy Metz, he got something for her. I think that most plus size actresses who have needed something, Christian Siriano has come through for them.
Exactly. But and he got good publicity for it. Right. And so now I feel like, which was another step forward.
I love that it is the best contradiction to the charge that, I wouldn't want to design clothes for fat people because I wouldn't want to be known for that. I mean, how horrible. And yet, here he is making a name for himself. We know his name because he does.
Mm-hmm. Well, we see again, it's that whole fat by association.
Absolutely.
Thing,
I think there were some other looks that are good to spotlight, including so Sam Smith and their harem of Sam Smith and Kim Petras won Best Duo Pop Performance for it's the song that I knew
Unholy.
Unholy, that I knew from TikTok as the TikTok song. So they had this group outfit that once again kind of is like prom, but I think more like 90s early aughts prom, of this red top hat and sunglasses and this once again big kind of drapey cape that was removed for their performance,
that had the right wing up in arms, which is worth it just on that level.
Yes.
Well, yeah, because they embraced the whole unholy element of the song and did the whole song in red lighting. And their hat was a top hat with horns sticking out of it. So it's very sort of evocative of the devil, the classic devil imagery, which of course, means that they're trying to destroy our kids and teach them witchcraft.
Yes. Well, I think we want to keep the inspiring, fat, sexy vibes going right into Fat Watch. Scooty, hear me.
2023.
Take us into the sky and away.
Michael saw an Instagram comment that was particularly upsetting. So
Michael got traumatized mid-podcast recording.
Yeah, not ideal.
We need more vibes than ever. And thankfully...
And what better vibes could we get than going into the world of burlesque?
Yes. Big, thick energy.
That's what we need right now. Big, thick energy.
Yes. Out of Australia, the party taking body positivity beyond big tits, small waist, fat ass. I love this so much. This was a wonderful thing. Demon Derriere. who is the founder of Big Thick Energy.
I mean, to be honest, if your parents name you Demon Derriere, you're only going to have job options of burlesque performer or roller derby queen. Those are the only two things you're allowed.
Which is why we've picked that for our bulldog. That's his name.
I just, for some reason, imagined Sam Smith and Kim Petras as the parents of Demon Derriere, like in their Grammy outfits, sitting in this like 1950s living room. Like this girl coming down the stairs in like a very modest outfit. Like, you're not going out of the house like that, Demon Derriere.
You get back to that pole and change.
So, and I love that in this whole article, because it's very much about Derriere and her festival that she founded. They refer to her as Derriere every single because of course that's her
last name,
I guess, last name or stage name. But no, the Big Thick Energy is a festival. It's not just the burlesque. I think the burlesque was sort of the founding like theme of the festival, but it's about, and it's body positivity, it's fat forward, but it's also inclusivity. It's, you know, bringing in other peoples of different intersections. And you have artists and you have local communities and workshops and companies all sort of banding together.
Maybe next time a podcast recording. Who knows?
Are we traveling to Australia?
No, absolutely not.
There are flying spiders in Australia. I
think that Trevor has a deathly fear of being pecked to death by an emu. Or perhaps kicked.
Yes.
See Instagram for photos.
But the article just really highlights Demon's journey, both as a person who was initially, you know, struggling with all of the same relatable issues that people struggle with her own body, and then found burlesque as a way into self-acceptance and then expression, and being able to find that sort of sexual acceptance and bring it into her own artistry, and then realizing that this could be a journey for many people, and creating a space for people to have that moment, and not just for fat people. Obviously, that's the primary need is for her to like create that space, but also for people who have their own body image issues and disorders. That she specifically said, some people reach out and they say, I'm not fat, but this seems like a place that I could belong. Is it okay if I come? And she's like, yes, of course.
That really caught my eye.
Do.
That really caught my eye, because there's so much in the fat lib space about who's allowed in the fat lib space, and who's allowed to complain about their body, and who's allowed to say what about their body, their own body. And I thought that was really empowering, that like, look, if you're having a problem with your body, come play with us. Mm-hmm. Like ain't no deal.
She specifically says, I don't necessarily agree with all of her advice, because she's like, surround yourself with people who are fat positive and cut out the people who aren't, which maybe is easier said than done. But she does say, fatten up your social media, fatten up your group.
Yes.
And I like that way of thinking. The phraseology is impeccable.
I kind of like the idea of reclaiming the word fat like that. Like, fat used to be a really good word, you know, fatten the calf, you know, living, you know,
fat of the land.
Never mind. Yeah.
That's where the flavor is, people.
Well, it's just funny. The common theme of everything that's touched on burlesque that we have ever looked at always comes back to, this helped me find confidence in my body. You know, all of these things. Even I think we did something once on people who pose nude for art modeling and stuff, who like found positivity in that. You know, like, maybe I should go out and find myself a burlesque class. That could be an interesting experience.
It's self-expression. Yeah. I think finding self-expression, whatever that means for you, is vitally important to living life fully. And, you know, it doesn't have to look like burlesque, but whatever it is for you, I think a lot of people live in a world that tells them to not exist or to be as small as possible. And that just inherently sounds like you cannot be self-expressed. And if you find a way to do that, to be that, like she has, the liberation and the feeling that comes with it. And she's now taking that and making a space for other people, and it just keeps building.
I think what I love about the intersection of burlesque and body positivity is, as you say, Michael, it's the space to express yourself. It's a space to liberate yourself. But that's because fundamentally it's the space of, you stop giving a fuck.
Yeah.
It necessitates that.
Yeah.
You really got to go, what? You know what? I don't fucking care anymore. I'm going to do what I like. I'm going to do what feels good.
To the point of, modeling for art classes. So I think I've talked about this before. We have a giant nude portrait of me that lives in our bedroom because we had a friend from the community who was doing his art final and was like, oh, will you pose for, we're doing portraits. I'm doing a nude portrait, blah, blah, blah. And initially I was like, oh my God, we can put it in the living room and it'll be this great conversation piece. And then I initially saw he made it sound like the final was nude portraits and it was just portraits. So like he sent me a picture of this huge nude portrait of me sprawled out on the bed in the glass cases with the others. And it was all just like normal, like clothed people sitting in chairs. And then when I actually had the physical painting, I'm like, this is a very large painting of me naked.
When he initially proposed putting it in the living room, I'm like, are you sure, honey? And now with the irony is that like he's afraid to take some people in the bedroom because they might see it.
I allow people to opt out because it's like, I don't want it to be a nude jump scare. Having that experience and getting to like, I don't know, I wake up every morning to a nude painting of myself and it is just a very liberating thing. And actually we had
That has to raise some self-esteem.
it does. And also we had a house guest. When Dan and I were on the cruise, we had some friends kind of house sitting, and there's a point I was like, oh man, they're gonna wake up to nude me
Every morning.
kind of. With how the painting is, how it's painted and where it is, I'm kind of like looking down on the bed very ominously,
Judging what kind of sex they might be having.
Just to wrap up the Fat Watch, one of the things I wanted to sort of call out to the Chaser listeners on the podcast.
Hello, Chasers.
The Guardian has mentioned some of the artists that Demon Derriere works with, and they link their Instagram channels, and one of them is a person named Wombat Cereal.
May I just say, I have been following Wombat Cereal since before anybody was following Wombat Cereal. The man is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Get on that.
Dan is the Wombat Cereal hipster. Yeah, the Chasers, you will want to click through. If for no other reason than that.
I just really appreciate Demon Derriere making sure to include men and specifically going into the gay community because there's issues, y'all. We got a lot to work to, and thankfully Derriere is doing the work.
Saved by the Derriere.
Yes. Well, so listeners might at this point be wondering, wait, I thought this was Valentine's Day. This isn't our Valentine's Day episode. This isn't how it was last year or the year before.
Not my Valentine's Day.
And we kind of, last week we talked about like, oh yeah, send us your questions because we kind of dropped the ball on that. And we had this kind of very stressful call, pre-podcast call of like, oh shit, like it's Valentine's Day. We dropped the ball with questions.
Yep.
What are we going to do for the listeners? How are we going to
literally
do this?
4 little boxes with people running around with their hands in the air screaming. Yeah.
The Zoom boxes,
Yeah.
And then Don had this brilliant idea of like, why don't we talk about that?
And the pressure, of course, is that our normal Valentine's Day format is that we answer listener questions about relationships, and that's the whole episode. And oftentimes it's enough for 2 episodes. We waited too long, and we're trying to figure out how to sort of salvage that. And it brought up this idea that Valentine's Day, in a lot of cases, represents a certain amount of pressure for people to sort of rise up to some standard or to perform in some way, to put together the perfect date, to read their partner's minds and figure out exactly how to construct this thing that may ultimately feel perhaps a little forced or inauthentic or at the very least stressful.
Yeah.
And we kind of wanted to tackle that as a subject rather than, ourselves falling victim to the same thing. If your Valentine's plans are feeling a little stressful to put together, maybe this will help you.
And you're not alone. There is a statistic online that says 64% of men do not prepare for Valentine's Day. If you think about it, just about every movie about Valentine's Day, every television show that covers Valentine's Day, the focus is on the stress of preparing for it or the trauma of it going horrifically wrong. Like, very rarely is there a Valentine's Day thing that's just purely happiness and sun and candles up your butt until you get to the end, you know?
Ouch.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think also there's
Somebody's into it.
there is the whole thing of like, I think in like media, the other side of that is like, you know, well, you didn't get a Valentine. Everyone got a Valentine.
Oh, God.
But you, and which I think it can be very traumatic. That is, I'm not to like dismissing that, but I think it is also the impact of that, I think, has been amplified by portrayals of it. And like, I don't know, I think there's a lot of people, I think probably even a lot of listeners who don't have a Valentine, who don't have plans. And there's not anything wrong with that.
But
You
we're
do you.
told that there is.
Yeah.
I think the thing that the other side of this coin, the dark and seamy side of this coin that people don't mention is it's not just that like, oh my God, it's Valentine's Day. What can I do that's amazing? There's also the side of like, oh God, it's Valentine's Day. What can I do that I can accomplish and won't be lame? Like a box of candy? Oh, thanks. Did you find it yourself? Did you go down to the CVS and get that Stouffer's Russell box yourself? Blah, blah, blah. Like there's as some of us who are more focused on not failing than achieving, I think there's definitely the pressure of like, what do I have to do to not get slimed this holiday?
I have a sense of it, which I'm sure is fairly obvious, but also maybe worth pointing out, which is that whenever you try to do something that is not authentic, that is not actually an expression of what you care about, it will feel awkward. It will feel forced, even if it's just a little bit, and sometimes all the way up to full-blown social anxiety cringiness. Like if you know that you have to do something for Valentine's Day, you're not doing it because you desire to do it. You're doing it because you have to.
Here, honey, enjoy my obligation.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it is obligatory. And, you know, that's not to say that the gesture doesn't mean anything. That also I want to point out, if you do follow through with something that feels obligatory because you care, it's because you care. And don't forget about that either.
Yeah.
We're not saying that that's a bad thing to do at all. The expression is the point, and it's detaching yourself from the idea that you have to do it, or that your partner's going to be mad at you or disappointed if you don't do a thing their way. And figuring out if you want to do anything at all, if that's what's fun, if that's what your self-expression looks like.
Yeah. See, but
And if
Michael,
not,
but see, Michael, you're not married to Trevor. Let me elaborate. So I think, as we've established through many podcasts, Trevor is a genius at gift giving, like a fucking genius.
It's true.
And I am his
evil genius.
Yeah, but you almost, yes. And I am his opposite in that regard. And so I always feel, and he, you know, Trevor, you are wonderful about like, you never, ever are like, oh, that you got me that. No, he is amazing. He is absolutely amazing. The pressure is strictly on my end. Like, I'm trying to measure up to that. And like you say, it's like, for me, that's just not authentic. And it's not what I do. And I think Trevor, you have blessed me with knowing that.
Yes. Well, I mean, there was a thing that, you know,
but I just have to, in my own self-defense, what I think I do very well is that I'm pretty darn, you know, responsive the other 364 days of the year.
Yes. I think it's, so like, this isn't Valentine's Day, but like for Christmas, very often what I would do with my friends would be like, my gift to you is you don't have to get me a gift. And it would just be, or like, or they would do that to me, like, you know, my gift to you is like, you don't have to get me a gift. And it just kind of relieving that pressure. And I
get so excited and giddy when he says that.
Valentine's Day is so weird because it is this super commercialized holiday. I think it's so weird because, you know, I've talked about in the past, like the whole Valentine's Day stuffed animals that I know, like a lot of people would love to get them, but I think it's so hard to really have authenticity with Valentine's Day because there is just so much commercialization of like everything is Valentine's Day and it is hauled out for this one day, but it really like there's only like 2 weeks that I feel like people really engage in it.
Yeah. I have an idea, and I think this would be a nice thing, and it's very simple and it's very easy. If you have somebody you're dating, a partner, a boyfriend, husband, etc., and maybe you have your sort of your routine, like for me and Michael, and this is probably like most people, it's like, after a day of whatever working, having dinner together, I'll usually cook or we'll order something. We'll watch an episode or two of like 30 Rock or Modern Family, and then watch like a movie or a TV show, like like we're doing Last of Us right now. But that's like our routine, and it's very comforting to me, and it's fun and it's easy, and it's like something to look forward to each day. And that's sort of antithetical to the like, spontaneous big gesture of Valentine's Day, right? Valentine's Day is supposed to be this big new other thing. But I think it can be something as simple as expressing how much you love doing that to the person. Like saying, taking the opportunity to say Valentine's Day is about expressing love, and I want to tell you how much I love having this routine with you. And you don't have to do a thing. You can just appreciate and take a moment to express that this is what we do, and this is what I love about it.
I love that.
What Michael is talking about here is what I think Valentine's Day is, what we think of a Valentine's Day is really about, is trying to say, I love you or I appreciate you to someone in their love language. Right?
Yes.
The way that they say I love you is the way that you should try to say it to them on Valentine's Day, because that's the clearest way they can hear it. Right? You're saying it in their language. And one of the big dangers with Valentine's Day is that you have 1,010 corporations trying to tell you that you need to say, I love you in their love language.
Yes.
By giving your partner these candies, these flowers, taking them to this restaurant, because that restaurant knows the love language that you should be speaking. No, Michael is getting to the key of it.
Trevor is holding up his
Doesn't
love
need to be
language.
extravagant.
Yes.
Yep.
No, I'm saying that,
Heart-shaped
the
jelly beans.
Starburst heart-shaped jelly beans. I just during this call, I got a push alert from Lyft saying, say I love you by taking a road trip with your partner this Valentine's Day.
Oh, God.
Use
On
Lyft
Lyft?
rentals.
Oh my God.
That's Lyft's love language.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I am a fierce detractor of the Valentine's Day dinner, like going out to dinner for
God.
Valentine's. I have
Oh, yeah.
the worst
Move it to
dinners
a
I've
different
ever
night.
the worst dinners I've ever had in my life have been on Valentine's Day. Not because of the company, just because the servers don't want to be there. The restaurant is only open because they're going to make a killing. They've simplified the menu. I've been sat in a corner. I've been rushed through courses. It's awful.
Both those things were when the one year we went out for Valentine's Day, we were at it was so dark. We were in a corner table by the kitchen.
Ooh,
and
fun.
the menu was like half of it was seafood, so I couldn't eat it. And it was just rushed and it was horrible. It was the worst meal I've ever had out.
Yeah. It wasn't a meal you'd ever want to have, let alone on Valentine's Day.
And also it's like part of it is, everyone wants to be the center of attention because it's our Valentine's Day.
Well said.
Why aren't we getting better service? It's like, because it's everyone's Valentine's Day, including your waiter who's trying to get home to, give their boyfriend the heart-shaped teddy bear that's sitting suffocating in the backseat of the car.
and the chocolate that's been melting in their trunk all day.
Yeah.
They spent hours.
It's CVS chocolate. It doesn't.
They
melt.
spent hours at Build-A-Bear.
One of my favorite Valentine's bits from media is Shock and Surprise from 30 Rock, where it's a Valentine's episode, and Pete, who's sort of the put upon, family man father, is like, what? It's Valentine's Day again? And Liz is like, oh, you forgot to do something for your wife, Paula, didn't you? And he's like, yeah, it's also her birthday. It's just, so don't do that, people. That might be a little too far.
Yeah, try and take the stress out of it.
If your partner's love language is that Whitman's sampler heart-shaped box of chocolates, you go get that, or even just like
Thanks, honey. I'm writing that down now.
I'm working my way up to the Whitman sampler. So far, I'm only worthy of the Hershey's.
Oh,
Don, you are worthy of so much more than Hershey's.
Yeah.
Yay!
you're at least a Toblerone.
Damn, let's not get crazy.
So take that to heart on Valentine's Day. Hopefully you hear this in time. If not, just let it take some pressure off you. To call back to, I believe it was last week's episode or maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't remember. Time is a flat circle. When I mentioned the gap between the bidet and the toilet seat, we had a listener write in
Yes.
with a very special mailbag tip. So I'm going to attempt to. The listener writes in very short and sweet and to the point. Anytime I share the link to a bidet attachment, I recommend toilet seat bumpers. I also recommend the Merrill Hut Mock, a good indoor-outdoor slipper, which was something I had talked about that Michael was looking for better slippers with arch support. But the toilet seat bumper is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a little sort of squishy pad that you attach to the toilet seat or to the toilet underneath the toilet seat, so that basically it cushions when the toilet seat presses down as you sit on it. Really simple, straightforward. It's like $8.
Can I ask? I was unclear as to the purpose. Is it to have a seat with a shock absorber, or does it serve some sort of spacing need?
So what I'm referring to is like the bidet adds a gap between the toilet itself and the toilet seat. Like it raises the toilet seat up, whether it's a half inch or a full inch, depending on the size of the bidet. So that creates this gap where when you sit on the toilet, it sort of bends down.
It's sloping down
underneath your weight. Right. It literally, and depending on how much that gap is, you might even break the toilet seat or it might just be uncomfortable. And so this bumper fills that gap with a little bit of pad and squish and basically alleviates that strain on the toilet seat.
I see. This isn't a problem with our bidet because it's like a quarter of an inch, but I get it now.
No.
I think I know what Michael's getting for Valentine's Day.
Toilet bumper, toilet bumper, toilet bumper.
I hope
I
it's
like
heart-shaped.
Heart-shaped box of toilet bidet bumper cushions.
That should be the new tongue
you
twister.
Shouldn't have.
I did check out the Merrill Hut Mock slippers, which look a little bit more like shoes, but I can see how they're sort of between shoes and slippers. They look pretty cool. The sizes go up to, I think, a US 15. However, they have a category for width, but the only width available was medium. And I suspect for a lot of listeners that may not be wide enough. I don't know if at some point or another they had wider.
No, there are some styles that have a large for the width, but mostly you're right. They're mediums. And for Trevor, you just have to strap two together.
Yeah.
But if it works for you, it comes recommended by a listener. If you end up getting one, let us know how it goes. I'm curious. They do look very supportive. Anyway, so thank you to that listener for writing in. We always appreciate it. And Don, take us into Bitland.
Well, we have touched on all of those boxed chocolates that we get at Christmas time, shaped like little hearts with the frilly things on the outside. But those, it could be argued, might not be the most iconic type of Valentine's Day candy. What is the Valentine's?
I already know the answer to this.
Conversation hearts.
Okay, what's the Conversation Hearts? That is correct.
Oh,
so Conversation Hearts, also known as Sweethearts in the United States or Love Hearts in England, are those sweet, chalky little treats that you usually got them in elementary school. That's what I associate them with. Little messages on them like love you, miss you, hug me,
Be
all
mine.
that sort of stuff. Be mine. But these are some long-standing treats. They've been around for a while. So here's some questions today dealing with the sweetheart candy.
oh my.
So legend has it that sweethearts have a very special connection to war. That's actually where they were first sort of conceived. What is this popular rumor? 1, they were invented in ancient Rome, supposedly sent as a gift to a group of soldiers to celebrate their victory over Gaul. A Russian spy supposedly sent a cake with written messages concealed inside it to Napoleon on Valentine's Day that eventually led to Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo. In the United States during the Civil War, loved ones would send letters to soldiers with loose Necco wafers inside because they were hard, durable, and flat, so they could fit inside an envelope. These wafers would sometimes pick up ink from the letter, resulting in characters being copied onto the candy. Or 4, in World War I, the candies were used to deliver secret messages between spies.
I'm going to go with number 4. I just like it.
You want
I like the
spies
secret
with
messages.
Spies with secret messages?
I was laughing earlier because I was like, you're talking about it. It's like, oh, somebody sent one of these chalky candies to, a tyrannical dictator, and he ate it and hated it so much that he started a war with that person because they're disgusting.
Well, and everybody knows
so
that
bad.
Napoleon invented the Napoleon, so it can't be that.
That's exactly true. Yes, which are delicious.
Okay, so are you both going for World War I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Trevor.
I'm torn between Civil War and World War One.
Mm-hmm. Have you had a Necco wafer? Because I have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have. That's why
And they probably caused the Civil War. Who knows? Yeah.
I'm gonna, I guess, go with 4.
With World War I, we got 3 answers for World War
I like,
I.
yeah,
I think,
But
I like the
I'm
idea.
reconsidering. I'm reconsidering just because I know how far back these little shits go, and I think they are Victorian. So Civil War would be a very plausible wrong answer because I have a feeling the story is apocryphal in any case. But
So are you changing?
yes,
or-
I'm going to go for Civil War.
Okay. Well, Trevor, you should have stuck with Civil War because, in fact, it was the Civil War.
Yeah.
Necco wafers were kind of a new invention around that time, and people they were fine. You could send them in the mail, so they were a popular treat for soldiers at the time. Dan is right; the story is most likely apocryphal, but it is a story that's been floating around for a bunch of years. So, the first sweethearts weren't actually shaped like hearts at all. What did they look like?
Kidneys.
Necco wafers.
1, ribbons. 2,
Oh.
scallop shells. 3, gems. Or 4, cherries.
Scallop shells, I think.
Scallops. I'm going with scallops.
I'm so confused because they're sweethearts. So why would they not be shaped like hearts?
I'm thinking Birth of Venus. Here.
I'm gonna be different and say gems.
Okay. The correct answer is, in fact, scallop shells.
Yeah.
The famous love notes actually took their debut as messages printed on colored paper and tucked into cockles,
Oh, my.
or candies shaped like scallop shells.
Oh,
And there is nothing less candy tasting than a cockle. Can I just say?
Oh, boy.
The brother of the founder of the New England Confectionery Company, or Necco, Daniel Chase, was the one who discovered how to print the messages directly on the candy in 1847.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
That's right. That's candy technology for you.
Sweethearts can also be tiny little time capsules. The messages are cycled in and out over many years, so occasionally old-timey sayings are cycled back in, dusted off, and put back into circulation. Which of the following, however, has never been a sweetheart? 1, lamb chop. 2, dig me. 3, hepcat. Or 4, fax me.
Hepcat?
Hepcat. I'm going with Hepcat because it was
Hepcat.
probably trademarked.
I don't know what that is. What's Hepcat?
Meaning a person in the know about popular culture.
Someone a hip cat.
Hep is the older version of hip.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like I've seen. I was gonna say fax me, but I feel like I remember seeing that at some point.
I think that's real.
I'm
I'll
telling you,
go with,
Hepcat.
what was the first one?
Lamb chop.
I'll go with lamb chop.
Okay.
I'm gonna say dig me.
Dig me. Okay. We've got 1 for lamb chop, 1 for dig me. And Dan, bring us on home. What is your answer?
Hepcat. Hepcat. Hepcat.
Hepcat? All right. The correct answer is, in fact, lamb chop.
Ah, I got one.
The other 3 have all appeared on the candies at some point or another.
Yeah, lamb chop is too, I don't know. I know that could be like a cute saying, but it feels too much like meat. Meat on candy is bad.
All right. A special bonus question. We've talked about the boxes of candies today, those lovely little heart-shaped boxes. Who invented the first heart-shaped box of chocolates? 1, the Hershey Company. 2, Mars Incorporated. 3, the Cadbury Corporation. Or 4, Ferrero Rocher.
Cadbury.
I'm going to go with Hershey's.
I'm also gonna go with Cadbury.
All right. Cadbury is, in fact, the correct answer.
Oh.
I was just so
Hey.
surprised to find out the heart box shaped of chocolate was a mass produced first. Like, I figured it would be like some small chocolate shop somewhere did it, or
Well, that still may be true.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible. It's just
Yeah.
not known.
I mean, I am not in the habit of turning down chocolate from anyone. So if our listeners did want to send us some chocolate, Trevor, where could they do that?
Well, we're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. 5 stars there. We got a nice review.
Oh yeah, we
we
had an awesome review. I want to read that on the next episode.
Yeah.
That was such a good review.
Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com. Well, maybe you're finishing up your sweethearts. You've just been shoveling them in the whole episode, crunching them, chalky bits and all. But there's one, you're shaking the box and there's one left, and you shake it out, and it's the message side down. So you flip it over and it says,
Watch out, baby.